Hi, Gary Stearman. Welcome to another edition of Prophecy in the News. You're going to enjoy this program, and more than that, you're going to find out some vital facts relative to the Middle East. The author of this book, Psalm 83, is with us today. His name is Bill Salus. Bill Salus has a way of looking at Middle East prophecy and making it understandable, and we'll be right back to talk with it. Bill, welcome to Prophecy in the News.
Gary, it's great to be back with you.
Bill Salus is a man who I think is gifted in a particular way. The Lord has unfolded Scripture for him. He's brought it to us in books and now DVDs, and he's a regular speaker. You never know where you're going to hear him next. Right now, on Prophecy in the News, what I want him to do for you is to look at today's Middle East situation, analyze it, and make it kind of clear, because it's a muddy, muddy situation. Bill, what's going to happen next in the Middle East?
Well, that's the $50 million question, Gary, and we're at such a critical crossroads in the Middle East now, not only for the Middle East populations, but for us here in America as well. Things are going on so dramatically over there right now that we need to be aware of what's going on, and the world is asking these kind of questions, but they're asking the questions to all the wrong places. They're turning to their political leaders. They're turning to the liberal pundits and the media and things like that. But the headlines are like shifting sand. 1 week it's Egypt's in the news. 1 week it's Syria. The next week it'll be Iran. It's utter insanity. 1 year you've got one president in Egypt. 2 years later you got a new. Who's the next guy? You can't understand it. Even our present executive administration, they don't necessarily know what to do in the middle of the quagmire. Do we attack Syria? By the time this show airs, who knows? That may have already happened. Well, that might be a mistake. Well, did we back the Muslim Brotherhood? Yes, we did, but now that guy, that horse threw its jockey in the Middle East. Now, what do? Well, we have to turn to the Bible, Gary, because the Bible prophecies right now are glaring. They're coming off of the Bible pages. Egypt, Isaiah 19. Damascus, Isaiah 17. Peripheral prophecies that probably fit in with Psalm 83, a climactic concluding Arab-Israeli war. It's an exciting time to be alive, but if we get caught up in the day-to-day headlines and the shifting sand of what's going on over there,
right,
we're not going to be able to see God's bigger perspective of what's about to go on.
Well, as we make this broadcast today, just very, very recently, within the last week, Bashar al-Assad and his troops have once again fired nerve gas at the general population to try to knock down the rebel resistance. And they seem to have absolutely no problem at all with this. They're very, very inhumane. And the world at this point in time is now beginning to react, where, Bill, I don't think they have before. All kinds of atrocities happen in the Middle East, but when news films begin to show mothers and children, all, in the throes of death, and huddled in the streets, and certain death is just around the corner because they are reacting to sarin gas. Those things have a way of getting right to the heart of a viewer and making people say, wait a minute now, what's going to happen next? And I'm one of those people who really am looking over there and saying, wow, we could be on the verge of fulfilling Bible prophecy in a hurry.
The situation needs remedy, and the international community does not have a plan for that remedy. It's disconnected from the Abrahamic covenant. It's disconnected from God's benevolent plan with Israel and those types of things. And if we continue to just look at the events that are going on there, that is utter insanity over there, we don't know what's going to happen from one moment to the next. We're going to get lost in the shuffle. We need to step outside of the forest from the trees and see what God's ultimate plan is. There is a lot of suffering. I mean, it's so sad to see what's going on over there, especially in Syria and the children and the suffering that's going on. Here's the situation. God wants to have a relationship with everybody. We know this from John 3:16. He so loved the world, he sent his only begotten Son, that whoever would believe in him, this is Jesus, would have eternal life. he wants that relationship. But 3/4 of the world presently, 2,000 years later, either denies this God's existence, or they worship a false god, or they don't know this God.
Right.
And he's going to change that. Ultimately, what's going to happen is through two major events, he's going to evidence who he is. In Ezekiel 39:7, we're told that I will uphold my holy name in the midst of my people Israel. They shall not profane my holy name anymore, and the nations shall know I am the Lord. A major event, Ezekiel 38 and 39, most of your viewers are familiar with this, in the end times. God's going to show them that he is the upholder of the Abrahamic covenant. It requires an Israel, and it requires Israelis. Well, there is an Israel, and there is Israelis. Russia's going to put together an offensive, and they're going to try to come and take Israel's wealth and fight Israel. But God is going to stop that. Not the Israeli Defense Forces, not America. God is going to stop that, and the evidence will be that he is Jehovah. And this takes us to the second big event, which is Psalm 83. The Arab-Israeli war is going to happen. The missiles are going to be flying probably sooner than later at this point in time, and it's going to be Psalm 83, the bordering Arab states coming against Israel in a prison rules fight that Israel will win. And it says at the end that they shall know, the participants of Psalm 83 verse 18, that Jehovah, who alone is the Lord, is the Most High above the earth. Two major prophecy events, that the end outcome will be that God will establish himself and evidence himself as the promise-keeping, covenant-making God of Israel, and the world will have to make their choice at that point in time, because soon thereafter, and I put these before the tribulation, Psalm 83 and Ezekiel 38, the world is going to be hit with strong delusion, 2 Thessalonians 2, the Antichrist, the man of lawlessness is going to come on the scene, and they're going to have to make a choice. And God's going to give them a perfect choice, an opportunity to know between the two.
Now, Bill, I should quickly move to this. You view Israel as being victorious, that is, in a series of upcoming battles. Israel is going to be decisively victorious. Now, there is some difference of opinion on that these days as to what will be the outcome of what surely will be a series of wars in the Middle East. Some say this side's going to win, some say that side's going to win. Some speak of an Islamic victory of sorts that will bring to pass a series of events. But you really see Israel as being victorious in a series of upcoming wars. Tell us how that's going to unfold in your opinion, and why.
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, I think that God is going to do the international community, world economies, world religions a great favor. He is going to establish the final borders of Israel. That's the big deal right now.
Yes.
There's lines in the sand in the Middle East. There's the Armistice line from 1949 that separates Israel now from the West Bank and that sort of thing. There's a wall that has been put up to protect, the partition wall, to protect the Israelis from Palestinian terrorism. The international community is trying to push Israel to recede to its borders before 1967. All these are man contrivances.
Right.
This is not part of God's plan. God's plan is to bring Jews from the nations of the world into the land of Israel. He's going to uphold his holy name through his people Israel. I just talked about that prophecy. And he's not restricted to how many Jews he wants to bring over there. But right now it's not safe for Jews to go over there because of the Arab problem and that sort of situation. That's going to be rectified. That's going to be remedied. We will not have any longer disputes of final borders because Israel will fulfill prophecies in Jeremiah 49 and Obadiah, where they will actually expand territorially into parts of Jordan, into southern Lebanon. Isaiah 19:18 says 5 cities in the land of Egypt will speak the language of Canaan. That's Hebrew. So he's going to remedy the final borders. He's going to show he's the one true God. That's what he says, that they may know. Not Allah in Psalm 83:18, but Jehovah is the one true God. He's going to make Israel very prosperous because that's the commerce and the wealth that Russia comes after in the midst of the safety when they're dwelling securely after Psalm 83. He's about to do the world big favors, establishing that he's the true God, making Israel safe, and that sort of thing. These are prophecies that exist. I point them out in the book and the DVD you're offering. To answer your question about the Islamic Antichrist, real quickly, I've got several problems with that. That requires a vibrant Islam going into the tribulation, and I see Islam being a different Islam at the time of the tribulation. After Psalm 83, which is predominantly a Muslim war of the Arab countries that border Psalm 80, the nation of Israel, share common borders, the Israeli Defense Forces, existing in fulfillment of Bible prophecy, they are going to decimate that final offense against them, and they're going to dwell securely. Probably take down the Dome of the Rock as well, expand territorially, tear down the wall, because in Ezekiel 38 it says they'll be dwelling securely without walls, bars, nor gates, and they're not dwelling securely and not without walls, bars, nor gates. That's a Muslim war in Psalm 83. That's a punch to the gut of Islam. Ezekiel 38 is much the same. Different populations, different motives. Psalm 83, they want the pastures of God for possession. Ezekiel 38, they want to take the spoil and the plunder. But predominantly, apart from Russia, you got these other 8 coalition members that are all Muslim. Another Muslim war. God is going to stop that through hailstone, earthquake, fire and brimstone, not the Israeli Defense Forces, not America. A punch to the jaw, an uppercut to the jaw to Islam. And so by the time the tribulation starts, Islam will be pretty much down for the 10 count as far as I'm concerned. That's just one argument. But I don't see an Islamic Antichrist in Daniel 9, 26 and 27 that he must come out of the people who destroyed the city and the sanctuary. That's the origin of the Antichrist. Well, that was the Roman Empire. The city was Jerusalem. The sanctuary was the second temple. That was in 70 A.D. Daniel 11 talks about him being exalting himself above all that's called God. We find this in 2 Thessalonians. No Muslim, is going to come out and declare himself above Allah. The fatwa would be leveled against him. No Israeli is going to allow an Antichrist to confirm their security, a Muslim, to confirm Israel's security. And that's what the Antichrist does. He confirms a covenant with Israel. So these are just some of the arguments against the Muslim Antichrist. To be quite honest with you, I think it won't be long until that paradigm shift in thinking is going to start to change.
Now, the subtitle on Bill's book, Psalm 83, How Israel Becomes the Next Mideast Superpower, sort of says it all. In other words, you see a war just ahead. And by the way, as we're making this, there are possible cruise missiles poised in the Mediterranean, ready to be fired into Syria. We don't know how that's going to come out. It hasn't happened yet. But there is the threat of war in Syria. There is the threat of war in and around Jordan. There's the threat of war coming up from the south, from Egypt. And Benjamin Netanyahu is now standing up and saying, if Israel is attacked as a result of any of these peripheral wars, Israel will not stand by idly. We will counterattack. And he's been very clear about that. So as we make this broadcast, Bill, we're poised on the brink of war. And I think people are really wondering, in your opinion, what should they look for next? What should Christians be expecting to see?
Well, I think at this point in time, again, the overview has been this, Gary. I think the Lord has given the international community over 6 decades to try to understand and resolve the Arab-Israeli conflict. They don't understand it because they don't understand God's plan. They don't understand God's foreign policy in Genesis 12, 2 and 3, that you need to bless Israel to be blessed. And so at this point in time, the enemies of Israel are armed and dangerous and prepared to wipe Israel off the map, which is the goal of Psalm 83. Cut them off in verse 4 that the name of Israel be remembered no more. As a nation, remembered no more. We are going to see prophecy start to happen. And I think what we're going to see coming, the big one, would be Psalm 83, the Arab-Israeli war, with the peripheral prophecies that should come around that. Isaiah 19, which is really a strong burden against Egypt. A desolation occurs in Egypt, might find connections with Ezekiel 29, where you've got another judgment where Egypt will actually experience 40 years of desolation. Egyptians will experience 40 years of dispersion out into the nations of the world. I'm also watching for Isaiah 17. When you talk about the possible cruise missiles or the Tomahawk missiles coming into Damascus, you're talking about potential connections with Jeremiah 49. It says, and these missiles, by the way, are out into the Mediterranean. Israel has Dolphin-class submarines out there, and as we speak, America has moved 4 big warships over into the Mediterranean. It says in Jeremiah 49, in the connecting prophecy with Isaiah 17, verses 23 through 27 in Jeremiah 49, that there is trouble on the sea. Mediterranean Sea. It's gripping Damascus with fear, like a woman in labor. The sea cannot be quieted. And it says, ultimately, young men will fall in the streets, make that civilian casualties, and those men of war will also be destroyed. And then Jeremiah asks this rhetorical question in verse 25. Why is the city of praise, the city of my joy, not deserted? That's Jerusalem. Damascus, the oldest continuously inhabited city in recorded history, is going to be destroyed. It'll cease from being a city. It'll be a ruinous heap, according to Isaiah 17:1.
Yeah.
Verse 9 tells us in Isaiah 17 that there is desolation because of the children of Israel. Self-defense, Gary. Verse 14 says, at eventide you see Damascus, speaking of the Damascus and the masculine pronoun, but in the morning he is no more. This is the portion of those who plunder us and who rob us. It's referring to them coming against Israel. Why, the rhetorical question, why is this happening? Why is this happening to Damascus? Isaiah asks an important question in Isaiah 19 too. Rhetorical questions. Why are these things happening? Why is the city of praise not deserted, the city of my joy? These things are going on because the Lord's in this now.
As you're speaking, I'm sitting here thinking, and everybody thinks of Damascus, capital of Syria, and if you've got some notion of a Middle East map in your head, you'll be thinking of Syria lying just to the north of Israel there, and Damascus not very far from the Golan Heights in Israel. And you'll be thinking of boundaries there. But, Bill, those boundaries are man-made boundaries. Those were measured off by the Western Allies in the early part of the 20th century. And they laid those boundaries out in hopes that people would be satisfied with them and everybody would live in harmony and so forth and so on. But what they were really doing was setting up a future war or a future series of wars. Because what they did was juxtapose people who cannot live together. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're seeing today. And those people really have the notion that they want to come together and form a grand caliphate to control the Middle East. And they're well on their way to at least trying to do that.
Well, the question about the final borders is the big deal, right? Yeah. Obama and John Kerry have trying to put together promoting the pro-Arab peace plan, the Saudi Peace Initiative, and they're trying to get Israel to cough up God's promised land from those 1967 borders, to recede from them. Many people don't realize the final borders have already been established for the nation of Israel. That goes back in Genesis 15:18, from the river of Egypt, the Nile, to the river Euphrates, which courses to modern-day Iraq and Syria.
Right.
The armistice line of 1949 and this all these other things that they're trying to work on right now, these will not stand. And they will not stand much longer. There's lines all across the Middle East sand. And now it's the time to choose what side of the line you're going to be on. And these are the choices that are being confronting the major political leaders of our time. There's red lines. Benjamin Netanyahu has a red line on Iran's nuclear program. That line's in the sand in the Middle East. Syria has a red line if Israel strikes it again, and they've struck them 5 times by the time we speak. Israel struck Syria. On the 3rd time, Bashar Assad said, I have a red line. You strike me again, I'll send half-ton warheads into Tel Aviv. That's a red line in the Middle East sand. Obama had a red line in the sand. If Syria used chemical weapons, that was a red line for him. The armistice line, all these lines, they're going to be washed away. They're going to be blown away because the real final borders are going to be established, and Israel is going to expand incrementally into Jordan. Jeremiah 49, verse 2, there's an alarm of war in Rabbah, the capital of Ammon. Israel will win, and they will take possession of their inheritance, it says. It says there will be desolation. Sounds almost like Isaiah 17. Many of these scriptures I point out, and there are prophecies that say that Israel will expand incrementally. Now, I don't think Israel will get all of the promised land until the Messiah returns and sets up his messianic kingdom for 1,000 years. We're told it'll be 1,000 years in Revelation 20, verse 4. But they're going to expand incrementally. They did this in 1967. It increases their defensibility. It enables more Jews to make Aliyah, which is God's ultimate plan, more Jews over into Israel. They did it with Joshua. They did it with King David. They win wars. They take land. They increase their prosperity, and they increase their defensibility. That process is going to continue on, in my estimation. I'm watching for this to happen real soon. What the world is witnessing over here right now in the Middle East, over there in the Middle East, is going to be a game-changing experience because it's going to have prophetic implications. God now is going to come to the helm of what's going on, and he's going to make that a safer area for Israel at this point in time, and more Jews will thus come forward. That will ultimately change when the Antichrist comes on the scene. We know about that. Mm-hmm. They'll confirm a false covenant that's detrimental, starts the tribulation period. But right now we're at this moment in time where you're going to be seeing these ancient prophecies of 1,000 years ago with Asaph in Psalm 83 and Isaiah starting to find their fulfillment, in my estimation.
Well, Bill, as you know, we here at Prophecy in the News for many decades now have been dispensational in terms of the way we read the Bible, pre-tribulational. We believe that the church age is going to come to a culmination, let me put it that way, sometime prior to the Great Tribulation. And we believe that there is a gap, and we won't discuss at the moment how long that gap is. Might be 2, might be 3 years, maybe a little more, maybe a little less, but there will at least be a gap between the termination point of the church and the commencement of the Great Tribulation, which we believe to be commenced when the Antichrist signs the covenant with the leaders of Israel. So, given that, what should we, as Christians, watching all these things, expect to see? And I'm asking you to just kind of speculate based upon your study in the Bible. What should we expect to see as we approach the day of the rapture of the church?
Okay. Well, I think there's several pre-trib events, and the rapture is the hardest to know the timing of because we're not given the timing of the rapture. All we know, if you're a pre-trib rapture believer, and you and I both are, is that Jesus is going to come to get his bride, and she's going to escape the wrath that is to come. We're not appointed to wrath. He saves us from the wrath. These are all scriptures in Romans and Thessalonians. So the rapture's coming. But we could be here for these other prophecies. I can show in my book, and I do show, how Isaiah 17 is a pre-trib prophecy. Isaiah 19 appears to be a pre-trib prophecy. Psalm 83 is a pre-trib prophecy. And I believe all three of these precede Ezekiel 38, which I also have arguments for why that is probably a pre-trib prophecy. These are no small potato prophecies.
That's right.
These are world changers that will adversely affect Americans, economies, the world, and that sort of thing. I'm watching for these things. The church could be here for these things. The bottom line for the church right now is that their God is in control. He is not caught off guard by any of this stuff that's going on. World leaders are making bad choices right now because they don't know what's going on.
That's right.
They can't predict what's going on, but our God knows what's going on. And our God has big things in store, like I said, stepping outside from the forest for the trees, to let the world know he's God. He's the one true God, not Allah. And that people can make a choice in him. And as a Christian now, we have these witnessing tools. We've been handed a silver platter filled with prophetic morsels to take out into the world and say, do you see you're watching the same news as me on what's going on with Syria and stuff like that. Do you know that Damascus is going to be destroyed? Do you know that Isaiah is going to give over to a cruel master and the economy is going to utterly collapse? This is the message our brothers and sisters need to know. Jesus is coming, and we may not be here for these prophecies, but we can at least start getting this word out here. And when these prophecies happen, we have testimonial right there.
I'm glad you said that. I absolutely agree with Bill on this point, because I think in every age, the Spirit of the Lord provides motivation to bring people to Christ, because each age has its own distinctives. Well, our age, the age in which we live right now, the major distinctive is the fact that you can now see Bible prophecy about to be fulfilled right in front of your very eyes. I mean, it's just leaping off the pages of Scripture. You can take that to someone who really has not yet come to believe, and you can point these things out. Look at this, look at this, look at this. It's just about to happen. I think you can make a persuasive gospel presentation just on the basis of these prophecies.
Well, yeah, and God is going to springboard from these and evidence, like I said, he is the one true God. It'll be quite clear after Psalm 83 when the Israeli defense forces defeat their Arab enemies, that's a David and Goliath story there, that all is not God, Jehovah is God. And that's the petitioner there. All these types of things play together. And, this is a tough time to be alive right now. It requires a Christian to be courageous. But you know what? We don't have much time left. The good news is Jesus is coming to get us, whisk us up in the clouds. You close every program with, and I'm not going to say it because you're going to close this program with it, what it is. And Jesus is going to come. We don't have much time left, Gary, in my estimation. You ask what I'm watching for? I'm watching for the return of Christ, and I'm trying to let my brothers and sisters know that get this message out.
Well, Bill has produced a new 2-DVD set called America and the Coming Mideast Wars. And he systematically goes through the prophecies to show in much more detail than we have on this program what he expects to see happening. And by the way, I think his perception and his study is very much worth watching. We're offering you America and the Coming Mideast Wars for $19.95. This is a 2 DVD set. Call the 800 number on your screen and ask for America and the Coming Mideast Wars, $19.95 plus shipping and handling. But I'll tell you what, I've got something even better. We've put together a package, and we do this very often here at Prophecy in the News. And we're calling this the Mideast Wars package, consisting of Psalm 83, Bill's book, by the way, a bestseller, a 3 DVD set called Psalm 83, The Missing Prophecy Revealed, and a CD in which he defends, and by the way, as I understand it, he's faced some pretty tough questioning on this CD, defending his position, and I think you'll really want to hear this CD. And that, together with the DVD set we've just offered, is called America and the Coming Mideast Wars. We're offering to you as the Mideast Wars package, and the whole thing for $59.95. This would be, all these things together would be a $76 value. The book, the DVDs, the CD set, yours for $59.95. Again, I say it would be about a $76 value. Just ask for the Mideast Wars package when you call that 800 number on your screen right now. Just ask for the Mideast War package if you want every single article that we talked about. Bill, in conclusion today, I guess I want to ask right now, what should people be doing? That is to say, Christians out there listening and saying, wow, I had no idea. What should we be doing?
Redeeming the time, Gary. We are on borrowed time, and we have all the information we need from our loving God in His holy word about the days in which we live. Absorb themselves in this word, watch these programs, get their hand on this package here, everything they want to know about these coming Mideast Wars, so that they can be effective when they go out and reach out to their family members and their neighbor across the hedge and say, you know what, God loves you, and He has a plan here, and He's in control. And that's what we need to be doing right now. And
by the way, America and the Coming Mideast Wars would be something you could loan to that neighbor, and he could see for himself what's going on. And I guarantee you people need to know about this. There's a lot of confusion today. Bill, I really hope that we can clear up a little of that confusion.
Thanks, Gary.
Thanks for being with us today on Prophecy in the News. Gary Stearman, you know the time is short, as I always say. Keep looking up, everybody. Prophecy in the News is a viewer-supported program made possible by our many friends around the world. Be sure you tune in every day for breaking news and our daily prophetic news updates at prophecyinthenews.com, or follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/prophecyinthenews.